and raised in this mountain temple. She had acquired a lovely aloofness rarely found in a girl of 16. Her isolation from other girls her age and from the workaday world had given her eyes a contemplative seriousness cast which tended to put off men used to frivolous females. Marahachi, her betrothed, was just a year older, and since he'd left Miyamoto with Takuzo the previous summer, she'd heard nothing. Even into the first and second months of the new year, she'd yearned for the word of him. But now the fourth month was at hand. She no longer dared hope. Lazily her gaze drifted up to the clouds, and a thought slowly emerged. Soon it will have been a whole year. So that is Otsu. She is an orphan. Similar to Musashi, she's contemplative, she's thoughtful, different from the rest of the world in feudal Japan. Here we go, skipping along. Why, wondered Otsu, as she wondered countless times before, why do men run off to war? She had come to enjoy in a melancholy way, sitting alone on the temple porch and pondering this imponderable. Lost in wistful reverie, she could have lingered there for hours. Suddenly a male voice calling Otsu invaded her island of peace. So again, this book is really good at foreshadowing that little island of peace comes into play again in the last chapter, and so does Otsu. And we'll get to that eventually, but keep that in mind. So skipping along here, 800 or 900 yards down from the temple, spring flowers were blooming profusely along both banks of the Idia River. Otsu put her basket down and amid a sea of fluttering butterflies began swinging her sickle in wide circles, cutting the flowers off near their roots. So here again, the sickle and the flowers play a big role. In later chapters, they pop up again. And as one knows, in Japan, flowers are very they're beautiful. Just in general, all around the world, they're just beautiful, right? So she's preparing to go to a ceremony, so she's cutting flowers down. And again, I'll point this out in the following chapters of how these flowers are cut and how you pay attention to flowers. After a while, Takuan grew reflective. How peaceful it is here, he sighed, sounding both religious and childlike. Why, when we could have lived out our lives in a flower-filled paradise, do we all prefer to weep, suffer, and get lost in a maelstrom of passion and fury, torturing ourselves in the flames of hell? I hope that you, at least, won't have to go through all that. Otsu rhythmically filled her basket with yellow wrapped blossoms, spring chrysanthemums, daisies, poppies, and violets, replied, Takuan, instead of preaching a sermon, you'd better watch out for the bees. Skipping along here, it happens, of course, that the priesthood has been on bad terms with womankind for some 3,000 years now. You see, Buddhism teaches that women are evil, fiends, messengers of hell. I spent years immersed in the scriptures, so it's no accident that you and I fight all the time. So Takuan is a priest, and he is, I don't know that he's in charge of Otsu, but she's an orphan, so she's living at the temple with him. So he's always with her. Now, skipping along. Anyway, I'd like you to hear the advice Nagarjuna gave women. What advice? He said, women, marry thyself not to a man. That's ridiculous. Let me finish. He said, women, marry thyself to the truth. Otsu looked at him blankly. Don't you see? He said, with a wave of his arm. Marry thyself to the truth means that you shouldn't become infatuated with a mere mortal, but should seek the eternal. But Takuan, Otsu asked impatiently, what is the truth? Takuan let both arms fall to his sides and looked at the ground. Come to think of it, he said thoughtfully, I'm not really sure myself. Otsu burst out laughing. Takuan ignored her. There is something I know for certain applied to your life. Wedding honestly means that you shouldn't think of going off to the city and giving birth to weak, mamby-pamby children. You should stay in the country where you belong and raise a fine, healthy brood instead. So I'm just reading these little tidbits because in the previous chapter, the comb is brought up, and yes, women have an impact on these samurais, and it's not a bad impact. It's in the end, it's a truthful, good impact in how they raise these young men to become samurais, to become strong. And the women throughout the book and throughout Japan can also have a negative impact on these men. But here I am reading that passage because it does pop up again, right? This again is foreshadowing. Early chapters lead to the next several chapters and towards the conclusion where this comes to fruition, and it's very true up until now, right? Weak men in the cities, strong, robust men, the farmers, the out in the country, living off what they can, not off technology and in high rises. And so this comes back, right? So that little, raising men, not raising weak mamby-pamby, as it's said here in the book. So moving along here. So Musashi has a sister. Let's get to it. Ojin was a woman of 25, no longer considered in the bloom of youth, by no means bad looking, although suitors tended to be put off by her brother's reputation. She suffered no lack of proposals. Her poise and good breed were immediately evident to everyone. She turned down all offers thus far, simply on the grounds that she wanted to look after her young brother a bit longer. She is waiting for them to come back, and Otsu goes to visit her. She's preparing an obi for her for a festival, an upcoming festival. So here we go. Moving along a little further here. Otsu raised her head, caught sight of a household altar. On it, in a small dish, was a flickering candle. By its dim light, she saw 2 dark inscriptions, carefully brush painted. They were pasted on boards, an offering of water and flowers before them. The departed spirit of Shimen Takezo, age 17. The departed spirit of Onaiden Madahachi, same age. Ojin, Otsu said with alarm, have you gotten word they were killed? No. But what else can we think? I've accepted it. I'm sure they met their deaths at the Sekigahara. Otsu shook her head violently. Don't say that. It'll bring bad luck. They aren't dead. They aren't. I know they'll show up one of these days. Ojin looked at her sewing. Do you dream about Madahachi? She asked softly. Yes, all the time. Why? That proves he's dead. I dream of nothing but my brother. Ojin, don't say that. Rushing over to the altar, Otsu tore the inscriptions from the boards. I'm getting rid of these things. They'll just invite the worst. Tears streamed down her face as she blew out the candle. Not satisfied with that, she seized the flowers and the water bowl and rushed through the next room to the veranda, where she flung the flowers as far as she could and poured the water out over the edge. It landed right on the head of Takuan, who was squatting on the ground below. Hey, that's cold, he yelled, jumping up frantically trying to dry his head with the end of a wrapping cloth. What are you doing? I came here for a cup of tea, not a bath. Otsu laughed until fresh tears of mirth came. I'm sorry, Takuan. I really am. I didn't see you. By way of apology, she brought him the tea he had been waiting for. When she went back inside, Ojin, who was staring fixated towards the veranda, asked, Who's that? These 2 girls, one of them is moving on. Ojin, which is Musashi's sister, and Otsu is hanging on. Here we go with the bells again. I'll read another quick passage about the bells. The bells were ringing at the Daishoji and the Shippoji. They had started in a measured beat just after dawn and still rang forth now and then long past noon. In the morning, a constant procession flowed to the temples. Girls in red obis, wives of tradesmen wearing more subdued tones, and here and there an old woman in a dark kimono leading her grandchild by the hand. At the Shippoji, the small main hall was crowded with worshippers, but the young men among them seemed more interested in stealing a glimpse of Otsu than in taking part in the religious ceremony. She's here all right, whispered one. Prettier than ever, added another. They're in line and some of these kids get a little impatient. So here we go. This kind of closes out the chapter. But "Hey, priest," said a young man who'd been admonished, elbowing in. "You mean me?" Takuan said, pointing to his nose. "Yeah, you keep telling us to wait our turn, but then you serve the woman first. I like women as much as the next man. You must be one of those lecherous monks we're always hearing stories about. That's enough, you tadpole. Do you think I don't know why you're here? You didn't come to honor the Buddha or to take home a charm. You came to get a look at Otsu. Come on now, own up. Isn't that so? You won't get anywhere with women, you know, if you act like a miser." Otsu's face turned scarlet. "Takuan, stop it. Stop right now, or I'm really going to get mad." To rest her eyes, Otsu again looked up from her work and over the crowd. Suddenly she caught a glimpse of a face and dropped her brush with a clatter. She jumped to her feet, almost toppling the table, but the face had already vanished, like a fish disappearing in the sea. Oblivious of all around her, she dashed to the temple porch shouting, "Takizo! Takizo!" And that ends chapter 3. And you'll see that as we go along, the women that have a major impact, they all have a name that begins with an O. And what is an O? An O is a circle. Now, what is the meaning of a circle? It's a symbol of life, spirituality, never ending. It has no beginning and no ending. And again, I'm telling you, these women have a massive impact on these samurai, on the way that these men become supreme warriors. Especially Musashi. We'll see what happens to him and what happens to Marahachi with these women. I saw a review somewhere online where people think that the book paints women in a negative light. It doesn't. It paints them in the supreme light. 2 more women introduced, Otsu and Ojin. There's another one coming up, another chapter where another woman is introduced. Okay, so the flowers come into play here throughout the book. We're going to run into the flowers again and what they represent. I'll leave the flower symbolism later. I've already covered the flower in a different episode, a different podcast, but so I'm going to leave it to that. The women, the O, the circle of life. No beginning, no end.